overt acts in furtherance of the conspiracy to commit destruction, alteration, or concealment of evidence and to affect the objects thereof. One or more of the following overt acts were committed by one or more of the subjects of the conspiracy within Fremont County or elsewhere in the state of Idaho. Number one, on or about November 26, 2019, Chad Guy Daybell misrepresented the nature of his relationship with Lori Vallow while questioned by the Rexburg Police Department during a lawful investigation regarding the whereabouts of J.J. Vallow. On or about November 26, 2019, Chad Guy Daybell contacted Melanie Gibb via phone for the purpose of requesting and or encouraging non-cooperation with law enforcement's lawful investigation regarding the whereabouts of J.J. Vallow. Number three, on or about November 26, 2019, Lori Vallow provided a false and or misleading physical location of J.J. Vallow to law enforcement during a lawful investigation. Number four, on or about November 26, 2019, Lori Vallow contacted Melanie Gibb via phone for the purpose of requesting and or encouraging non-cooperation with law enforcement's lawful investigation regarding the whereabouts of J.J. Vallow. Number five, on or about November 26, 2019, Lori Vallow contacted Melanie Gibb via phone for the purpose of requesting and or encouraging Melanie Gibb to prepare and or present false evidence to law enforcement regarding the whereabouts of J.J. Vallow during a lawful investigation. Number six, on or between the dates of February 30th, 2020 and June 9th, 2020, Lori Vallow refused and or did fail to comply with a court order to produce her minor child, to wit, J.J. Vallow, to the Rexburg Police Department or the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare in Madison County.
All right, want to bring back in the legal team now. Ted, Ashley, Chanley, all still with me. We've got to dive right into these facts, what the state is alleging, and it seems to me this case is far from over. Ashley, I want to begin with you first, if I may, please. Can we talk about Chad Daybell's reaction when Rexburg police went to check on JJ?
Oh, well, that's where everything got really interesting for the Rexburg police, because Chad Daybell indicated to them that he didn't really know her, didn't know her phone number, wasn't so familiar with that lady that you're looking for, Lori Vallow, even though they were married. Even though they were married. So that began the dishonesty of Chad Daybell to the Rexburg police. But then you heard that judge sort of giving you the greatest hits, or at least the worst hits. They were really the headlines of what the affidavit spelled out in detail, Julie. And effectively, they both, Chad and Lori, tried to send the Rexburg police on a wild goose chase about where little JJ was. They said he was down in Arizona with their friend Melanie Gibb, probably at a movie tonight, you know, Frozen 2. You probably can't get through to them because they're in the movie theater. And then here's what's problematic for Chad, especially today, when you hear it all written out and you realize Melanie Gibb told the police what you did. You called her and you asked her to lie. Let me read it in the police jargon. So from the affidavit, on December 6th, Detective Hermosillo, who's with Rexburg, was contacted by Melanie Gibb, and she informed us that both Daybell and Vallow called her on November 26th at separate times. She was contacted first by Daybell, who told her that she would probably be contacted by the police with regard to JJ's location. And then he asked Melanie not to answer the call. You know, Melanie Gibb told the police in Rexburg that she thought this was confusing because she'd been told by Lori Vallow in late September, or maybe early October, that JJ was living with Kay Woodcock, JJ's grandmother. So Melanie asked Chad Daybell if JJ in fact was living with Kay, and he then spilled the beans to Melanie that no, JJ was not with Kay. But isn't it interesting that when push comes to shove and Melanie Gibb was finding herself embroiled in an investigation and there were missing children, she chose to do the right thing. She said everything she knew, and it's now in black and white.
Thankfully, she did, Ashley. Now she's going to be a critical witness for the state, as you know. Chanley, could we talk a little more about another really chilling detail in that affidavit unsealed today regarding little JJ?
Yeah, there was one detail that we noticed today. Now, we have a couple of versions of this affidavit. Each time, the lead detective will add little tidbits of new information that we didn't know from the previous affidavit. And this one was a new tidbit about Melanie Gibb and her boyfriend, David Warwick, who were visiting at the time. They were visiting Lori Vallow in Rexburg at the time that JJ Vallow goes missing, and the prosecution alleges he was actually killed and buried in Chad Daybell's backyard. That's September 23rd. That morning, the early morning hours, from between 8 and 9 a.m., David Warwick gets up and asks Lori Vallow, where is JJ this morning? And Lori proceeds to tell him that JJ was acting up and that Uncle Alex came and picked him up and took him away that morning. Well, in paragraph 39 of the affidavit, there's a little new tidbit that the detective goes into. He says, at no time during this interaction with Vallow did Gibb or Warwick believe that JJ was in danger. Vallow had not said anything about harming JJ or having Cox harm JJ. And so that leaves me to wonder why the detective felt it was important to include this newest information in this affidavit. We know that maybe there was some lingering questions. Maybe he wanted to clear Melanie Gibb and David of anything as far as the conspiracy goes, that they had no indication or idea of anything nefarious going on in the Vallow home at that time. But what we do know is that they did eventually, Melanie Gibb went to the police in December, so maybe they want to explain why they didn't think anything negative was going on, and that's why she didn't immediately go to the police in September.
Chanley, thank you. Now let's take a listen together to some of what was said in court about the other victim in this case, Tylee Ryan.
Overt acts. In furtherance of the conspiracy to commit destruction, alteration, or concealment of evidence and to affect the objects thereof, one or more of the following overt acts were committed by one or more of the subjects of the conspiracy within Fremont County and/or elsewhere. Number one, on or about September 9th, 2019, Chad Guy Daybell sent text messages to another for the purpose of disguising the destruction, alteration, and/or concealment of the human remains of Tylee Ryan on his property. Number two, on or about November 26, 2019, Lori Vallow provided false information to law enforcement regarding Tylee Ryan's attendance at BYU, Idaho, and/or her current housing situation. Number three, on or between the dates of January 30th, 2020 and June 9th, 2020, Lori Vallow refused and/or did fail to comply with the court order to produce her minor child, Tylee Ryan, to the Rexburg Police Department or the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare in Madison County.
And in that affidavit, we noticed more new details and nuances. Ted Rollins, you've got one for us about Tylee. What can you share with us?
Well, we've been told that Tylee was 17 when she went missing. The posters said it. We've been saying it every day, but look at the bottom of our screen tonight. It says Tylee Ryan, age 16. And we found that out today in the affidavit that actually they now believe that she died. She was killed, murdered, likely before her 17th birthday. So now she's 60. In the affidavit, it says Tylee was 16 years old at the time she went missing. JJ was 7 when he went missing. Until this time, law enforcement has stated that Tylee was 17 at the time she went missing because we were not aware she was missing until several months after her 17th birthday. However, we now have reason to believe that she was killed before her 17th birthday. A little, one of those things that we've been following this, and people around the globe have been following this for so long, and it's always been Tylee, the 17-year-old. Well, tonight we know it was Tylee, the 16-year-old, who was murdered.
Wow, and had to be identified then by her jawline, by dental records. Just horrific. Ted, thank you. Ashley, I want to go back to you now, please. You picked up on another interesting detail in this affidavit about how these agencies are working together, the police in Gilbert, Arizona, and the police in Rexburg, Idaho. What can you share, please?
So I think for a lot of people following the case, they probably thought that the Gilbert police were involved with the Rexburg, department because the kids were missing. And the they had been, at some point in Gilbert, and their grandmother had called from Louisiana and asked for some help. But it turns out that the Gilbert, Arizona police had a longer relationship with the Rexburg police, and it predates the children's missing. I mean, that moment when Cavallo asked for that welfare check. So let me just read a little bit from the affidavit. You kind of have to really read between the lines to catch this detail, but it is fascinating nonetheless. And then it also mentions another person of interest, which I don't think they have actually codified before, but I thought it was quite interesting. So this says, since November 26, 2019, the Rexburg Police Department has been involved in the search for J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan. The search for these children began when Kay Woodcock, JJ's grandmother, called Gilbert, Arizona police to report that she'd not had any contact with JJ for several months. Gilbert police contacted Detective Ray Hermosillo of the Rexburg Police Department. And here's where it gets interesting. Due to the Rexburg Police Department helping the Gilbert police with an investigation in which JJ and Tylee's mother, cousin, and uncle were persons of interest. So it sounds like there was already an investigation going on between Gilbert and Rexburg. And then when Grandma called and said, I need to find my grandson, can you help me out? Gilbert called up again to Rexburg and said, we need your help again. But that mother, cousin, and uncle, all being persons of interest, here's my guess. Lori's the only mother that we know of for JJ and Tylee. Uncle, heavy suspicion that it's Uncle Alec. But cousin makes me wonder if that's not Melanie Boudreau-Pawlowski, because Melanie Boudreau-Pawlowski divorced the Boudreau part of her name, Brandon Boudreau, and mysteriously he was shot at. And that is an active investigation, an attempted murder investigation. So I'm wondering if that little reference there to a cousin being a person of interest means that she, Melanie Boudreau-Pawlowski, was at this time and maybe still is a person of interest in that attempted murder of her ex-husband.
Wow, those are really great inferences you're drawing there, Ashley. Chanley, I want to ask this last question of you, please, before we have to take a break. I understand that you got a statement from the family of JJ and Tylee. What did they share, please?
Yeah, they released a statement today, of course, thanking the public for their outpouring of support and their prayers, and of course, thanking law enforcement as well. But they also announced that they're planning a couple of public services in honor of JJ and Tylee, but they're on hold due to the authorities still having the remains in custody. So they're pending these public services while the remains until the remains are released. I think we have a little, excuse me, some of it to put on the screen. It says, like us, many want to bid final farewell to JJ and Tylee. All plans are pending since their bodies have not been released, nor an estimated date is given. Upon release, we plan public services to be held in Rexburg, Idaho, Phoenix, Arizona, then Lake Charles, Louisiana. That's where the Woodcocks live. Please be assured, once memorial details are finalized, a public statement will be released. So we will be on top of that, of course, for our viewers, and when they do have these services honoring Tylee and JJ.
Most definitely. Chanley, thank you. Ted Rollins, Ashley Banfield, thank you both as well. Have to step aside and take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about that very sad case of the missing soldier, Vanessa Guillen. Her family believes it's her remains that have been found. Today, one suspect is dead, another suspect is in police custody. We'll bring you the very latest after this.